All right, it did work. Fantastic. So we're looking at the final drama essay. This is on a full-length play. So when you're choosing a play, it needs to be one of at least 3 acts. You can't use any of the one-act plays for this assignment. So a dollhouse, glass menagerie, Othello, you can use Oedipus if you want. Any of the full-length plays in the textbook are fair game. If none of those are working for you, I could probably find some that would work for you. So let's look at the due dates real quick. Rough draft is due in Canvas on April the 27th, so over 3 weeks from now. Final draft is due in Canvas by the 29th. Ignore that journal portfolio. That was an assignment that I don't do anymore. How I didn't see that, I don't know. Now, for my Monday, Wednesday class, we're going to start the multiple choice section of the class. That's the Monday, Wednesday only. For you guys, the hybrid class, you just have to have both components of the final due by May 7th. As I said at the beginning of class, I'll go over on the 16th the stuff that you need to do to prepare for the final. In addition, you need some time to prepare, so you kind of need that breathing space from when this essay is due to the final, because you are going to have to read 3 works, a short story, a poem, and a one-act play, and you need time to do that. Okay, so let's take a look at the assignment. Part of a writing for college class often involves coming up with your own thesis and ideas for analysis. This is your last composition class before you're just going to be expected to know certain things about putting together an essay. For the final essay in this course, write a 1,350 to 1,600 word essay. That's about 5 full pages on a topic of your own choosing. You must, however, use a work from either the drama unit or a play contained within the textbook. As I mentioned, in this unit, we're going to read as a class both Othello and a dollhouse. You can use either one of those or just a full-length play that's contained in the textbook. You may use one of the one-act plays if you're more comfortable, but as I said before, you know, the full length is going to be much better, and you have to get 5 full pages. We don't have a whole lot of plays in here that are going to be 5-page essay worthy, okay? And you may not be able to find research on the one-act plays sufficient enough to complete the assignment. I've discovered that over the years, this is part of the reason why the one-act play is not a research paper. We don't have a whole lot of scholarship on one-act dramas, okay? So you're going to be much better off if you use one of the full-length plays. You'll want to consider several literary elements of the pieces, such as imagery, character, tone, plot, metaphor, simile. Notice it says consider, it doesn't say identify. One issue that I have been seeing both between this class and my other class with the drama essays, that there's a paragraph that just identifies the literary terms that are used in the piece. That's not what literary terms are for. They're a vocabulary for being able to discuss literature. So you might say the protagonist, Mr. Rowland, does this, this, and this. You're using those terms to talk about the play. You wouldn't say, this play has a protagonist. It's Alfred. Here's why. That's just identifying it rather than using it as a vocabulary for discussing the work. Okay, so how the heck do I get started on this essay? The most important part of this process is selecting a work that you're interested in writing about. After you've selected a work that you want to write about, do the following. Read the work again and take copious notes both in the margin of the text and your notebook. In the case of Othello, yes, it's Shakespeare, but it's one of Shakespeare's shortest plays. And it's his shortest major tragedy. It's only about 3,000 lines, which isn't that much. It's To give an example, Hamlet's well over 5,000 lines. Watch production or productions of the play if one is or more is available. We will be watching a version of Othello and a version of A Dollhouse in class, or I will make them available to you. We'll probably try to watch Othello in class because the ones that are going to be on YouTube that would be free are all going to be white actors playing in blackface, which yes, this is the traditional way it's been done. It's just a little uncomfortable with modern sensibilities. Although Patrick Stewart, who is very Caucasian, played Othello in a production of the play, but the rest of the cast is black. So he still stands out as different from everybody else. Once you've reviewed the play, brainstorm themes, ideas, topics, and other items of significance to write about. Write a rough outline with a working thesis. Do preliminary research to see if you can support your thesis. Then write your full outline or tweak your topic depending on what you need to do at this point in the process. Really, research is a two-part process. Once you have an idea, you research a little bit at the beginning just to make sure that there's research out there about the work you want to write about. If there's not, you may have to switch. Then you write a basic outline, brainstorm ideas, put your ideas together and say, okay, where's my research lacking? Where do I not have sufficient information to back up what I want to say? Then you go back to the research and try to find other works that fit what you're doing. And if you're talking about, say, jealousy in Before Breakfast, you may not find an article that's entitled Jealousy in Before Breakfast. You might find an article that says, it's about substance abuse in Before Breakfast. And after you read the article, you may find some ideas that are workable with that discussion. But if you go into research only looking at titles that support the exact thing that you're saying, you're going to have a difficult time. You're going to have to search through articles and see if there's stuff that supports the ideas that you have about the work. Okay, so writing about drama. The online writing lab at Purdue University has a good overview of writing a literature paper. This link is in the modules tab on Canvas. In addition, read the Writing About Drama chapter in your textbook on 1550 to 1564. I think that's still accurate for tips. This is a new textbook this year. Essay ideas. At the end of several chapters in the drama section, you have the writing essays ideas or suggestions for writing. And you can generate ideas in the general questions section of the full-length plays. There are very detailed questions after A Dollhouse, after Othello. You can use those questions as a way to generate ideas about something you might want to expand into an entire paper. Although you won't necessarily use these exact topics if you're stuck, you can certainly go to these prompts to generate ideas for your essay. Now, in addition to your own works, you must use at least 4 secondary sources that you incorporate into your argument. The primary source does not count in this number, but you must cite it on your works cited page. In other words, you're going to have at least 5 entries, 4 secondary sources, plus citing the work. And while I'll be lenient with minor mistakes on citing your secondary sources, on the textbook, since I've given you an example of how to cite the textbook correctly, I do expect that to be perfect, okay? It's a work in an anthology. Title of the work, author's name, for example, O'Neill, Eugene, not Philip Johnson. Before Breakfast, title of the anthology, editor, publisher, so forth. Questions so far? Nothing bad about asking for questions. All right. At all costs, avoid writing a plot summary of the text. Some issues to think about that might help you get started on your paper. What are the characters' desires? What are the major themes of the work? What societal issues are affecting the work? Notice how many of the things that we've already touched on in our writings are coming back to kind of culminate in what we're doing here. What does the work mean? What are we supposed to get out of it? Okay, why should we bother reading about a North African general in medieval Venice who marries a white girl and gets in trouble for it, and his jealousy ends in tragedy? Why would we care about that? Well, the language is brilliant, but also the story should touch us, even though it happened a long time ago. Okay, some quick requirements. You have to have an interesting title, have a clear thesis, offer a variety of reasons to support your claim, use evidence from the text and your 4 secondary sources. It needs to be carefully argued and clearly written. Uses diction and style appropriate to a formal essay, free of grammatical and mechanical errors, including font margins, page numbers, etc. Times New Roman 12-point font, 1,350 words long, and is submitted to Canvas by the due date and time. Do notice, so I have 200 points. This is really for everybody. That means you have 60 points on grammar and mechanics for this paper. Okay, there's 4 sources that you need to have. 60 divided by 4 is 15. Okay, so if you only have 1 secondary source, you're probably not going to get much higher. You get a little bit higher, but not much higher than a 15 out of 60 on grammar and mechanics. So it's imperative for those of you, and I'm not just doing it for you guys, but anybody who's watching this, that if you haven't been great about getting that research done, make sure you do it for this paper, because you can't revise this one. There's not going to be enough time for me to grade it and get it back, at least in theory. If by some miracle I'm completely caught up when these are turned in and I can get them done and back to you with enough time to revise them, maybe, but you shouldn't count on a revision for this paper. All right, any questions? I'm going to kill the video. There we go.